Ladies and gentlemen, I am D K Giri, editor of ADS Forum. Welcome to another edition of our platform. Today, we are delighted to have a senior diplomat of our country whose last assignment was our ambassador in Greece, and after recently retiring from his service, he is teaching in Jamia Hamdard as the professor of practice and also advising companies and regularly commentating in Indian television on foreign policy issues. So I will have a conversation with him. I will be asking him his experience and a few topical issues regarding our international relations. Welcome to our platform, sir. We are very happy to have you, and our viewers would like to know the state of our foreign policy today, as India is aspiring or even begun to claim as one of the world powers, which is good news, but is our foreign policy really aligned with that kind of a aspiration of being a world power?
Yeah, I mean, at this juncture, whether one becomes a world power or how much influence one has in the world, is also depends on the international situation, strength of your economy, strength of your polity, society, how it is functioning. Since independence, compared to many of our neighboring countries, and even our larger neighborhood, India has been that we're very fortunate that we have had a very thriving democracy. So that way our institutions are very strong politically. Though of course there is much scope for improvement, and when India started as a democracy, there was a huge illiterate population, which is a very big problem. And but since then we have come a long way, thanks to the wise policies which have been followed by various governments since independence. Everybody, nobody is left out, and as a result, not only the literacy rate has gone up, but India has also managed to tap in some of the strengths which it has. The most obvious example is in this software development. Though in some other hardcore industries, they may be behind some other countries. So as a result, the economy has gone up. When we had become independent, one can recall that we used to go as a begging bowl around the world, for importing food, especially in developed world like USA, Britain, Canada. Though the population also was much lower, nearly 1/3 or 1/4 of current population. So from there, India through Green Revolution has come up very well, though the population has grown up 4 times or 3 times. We have the food production because of adoption of modern techniques such as Green Revolution, better irrigation practices, or better irrigation expansion. So the country has now become a net food exporter in a way. So that has given it a lot of strength. There is a now big thriving middle class in the country. Now we are already, in terms of nominal GDP, we are the fifth largest economy in the world. In purchasing power parity, we are higher. So that gives us a lot of leverage. And I myself, when I joined the foreign service in 1989, and the initial postings I had, and the type of reception which one would go, or the type of attitude people would display in our missions abroad since then, and when in my later years of postings, especially after 2000, 2005 onwards, let's say, when the economic development in India had really accelerated. So because of that, the attitude definitely had changed very perceptibly. Earlier, one would in the missions abroad. I distinctly remember one would need to work very hard to come up with a list of people to whom we had to cultivate in order to, propagate or to widen our interest or deepen our interest in India. But later on, people would come to you more or less. So that is the difference we found. And the other good example is, the nuclear supplier group (NSG). Though India is outside the NSG, and the USA one of the biggest power in terms of economy, in terms of military might, politically, especially after Cold War, is very particular about nuclear power, and India was able to convince USA to make exception to India under the nuclear supplier group for development of atomic power for civilian purposes, for peaceful uses. So that was the status of the country, and it has only improved. I'm sure if what was the situation after independence, in the early 50s or 60s, 100% one can say that the same situation of nuclear supplier group making exception for India, the question would have arisen, USA and other countries would have straight away said no. So that is how we see it. So, and Indian foreign policy that way has definitely played very well. And like for example, in the early 90s, when we embarked on our economic liberalization program, and the Cold War situation had got over, we started policies like Look East policy. At the same time, then we started this neighborhood reach, which resulted in the formation and strengthening of the organizations like SARC, South Asia Shape Regional Cooperation. So, though India-Pakistan relations still are not as conducive as we would like to be, but India has made efforts, because neighborhood is something where we need to somehow find a working relationship, because you can wish away anything, but you cannot wish away your neighbor as this thing goes. Yeah.
Right. Sir, let me probe one question, strategic question with you, because I have not been, I'm a student of international politics, I have not been able to reconcile that the India from independence followed a strategic non-alignment. They initiated it, which another party came to power after a long time, and they called it genuine non-alignment. And from there we have now moved to what is called strategic autonomy. I do not think that has helped our national interests in an interdependent world. Being a non-aligned or being self-reliant is a challenge. You need to spend on your defense. For a poor country like India, defense expenses were really very heavily pinching our budget. So, looking back or even now, do you not think, sir, that we should have regular, reliable partners, so that security partners, so that we don't spend so much on our defense which we could spend on the development of people? Let me give an example. If you look at Japan and Germany, both Axis powers in World War, and they were banned from engaging any military activities after the Second World War. And that ban really became a boon for them. And these two, Germany and Japan, became huge economic power. They are now the third and fourth economy. China has surpassed them. So I think that model is better than a poor country like India claiming to be self-reliant in everything and having a autonomous policy. I think, sir, this is a bit self-defeating, because you said one thing, that we are now fifth largest economy, correct? But if you look at the per capita GDP, I think we are around 142nd. in the ranking. So we are a rich country with poor people. Is that not a contradiction as well? So do you think, looking back on hindsight, or even now, we should give up our strategic autonomy and engage with real security partners?
That's definitely a good view. It also depends on what situation one is at that particular point of time. And we are human being by nature, as such, that we are interdependent even otherwise. If you take a unit as a family, and if say a father, mother and children are there, and one day father says, no, I can do all the role of the mother and children also, it's not possible. Nature has made us like that. Similarly, a mother cannot say that, okay, I will also be the father and also be the children. Or similarly, children cannot say, we will be act like children also and also act like parents. That will not work, or is not possible. So only when the family works as a unit, it becomes a healthy family. Otherwise, we have many examples of this integrated family. So similarly, then if you take it into the wider society, the family unit, at the village level, because India is also a village or small town. If I'm in a house or in a community, even with my relatives, if I try to do everything on my own, say build a house on my own, even as a household, cook food also, or make clothes, it is not very possible. So some people are good at something, some are good at something else. So then, as a whole, then you make a good society. So if the same thing, if you go at a wider scale in the international level also, if the countries who have shut off themselves from the world or have become isolated policies, we see good examples how they deteriorated. And see one or two examples, the best will come to mind is Cuba, for example. Cuba or North Korea, for example. So North Korea, they have this, we call this Juche policy, of philosophy, which was coined by the great grandfather of the present president of North Korea, Kim Il-sung, where they say you keep on trying everything, keep on doing, so that one day you will succeed. So many years, they have not been able to come, because each human being, we are made unique and we cannot do everything on our own. Yeah. But of course, the other, that is one side of the spectrum. The other side is, you become too much dependent. That if crunch time comes, suppose in a household, there is some person who knows to cook food, some person is expert in building a house, some person in clothing, office work. So each have a specialized, and they are cooperating. But if some other person does not know little bit of how to cook, or the other person does not know how to make clothes, then what happens if that person who is only doing cooking, he goes somehow, he is no more. Then the food is a very important essential element. So then the people will start starving, if they don't know how to cook food. And we are giving a very mundane example. So the ideal will be this cooperative spirit continues, because after all we are all human beings, and if we think about good of others, we have to survive as a whole. Then of course that's an ideal situation. But unfortunately, in this world, as history has also proven, ideal situation does not come to this time today. So some sort of backup fall should also be there. As you rightly said, totally following isolationist or policy, or like in economy, we used to use the term autarky. Autarky means you do everything, you don't depend on the world. Though some other country might be doing better in that area. So rather than cooperating and what you can give in turn which you are good in, I know that will be a better way. So in a way, if everybody is looking for betterment and self progress for humanity's sake, that will be ideal and that should be promoted. But at the same time, having some sort of a backup mechanism, if something is withdrawn or is not there, then it is there should be some backup to survive. And the best example in the current situation, which people may be reading in the news, is that in the modern world, the electronics now plays a very important role in any instrument, whether it is camera, whether it is television, smartphone. It all has electronic components. And India, though they had started in electronic manufacturing long time ago, when computers used to be very large, not on the laptops. They, due to various factors, I would not like to go into that, they somehow fell behind from kind of countries like South Korea, which apparently seem to be a later starter in this field, but they managed to technologically come up very well. So, and it's a big painstaking job with lot of research, lot of patents, etc. Like China, USA is trying to prevent China from developing in that electronics field, because then they can capture a lot of market. So now India has been left behind and we are trying to catch up. Now the dilemma is whether you have that expertise in-house, that you can come up with the technological edge which is there in the world now, and then come up with something new, or you collaborate and then learn. And putting up everything from scratch will take a lot of money. A lot of money, capital. People should be ready to invest. Unfortunately, industries, etc., they want also return as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So in this area, it will be wiser for India to have strategic collaborations.
Yeah.
With countries that not follow an isolationist policy. So depending on which particular area.
Following from that, sir, the last question is that, sir, our democracy is our biggest political asset. But when you look at the geopolitical constellation today, on one side there is an authoritarian autocracy, one-party autocracy represented by China, and on the other side the democracies, good or bad. And India is seen to be standing with China and Russia, and by implication North Korea and Iran, not with the democratic world. So how do we explain that?
Yeah, it so happens.
Yeah.
I mean, politically, ideologically, etc. India is, we say we are the largest democracy, and when we, especially we meet leaders from the West, we take the first common ground, we always say, see, we are democracy.
Yeah.
And like the same cannot be said when China is meeting, say, USA.
Right.
They may say we are the biggest economy, but not politically. But at the same time, because of this connotation that we are from the developing country, we are not yet that developed. Climate change is a very big factor.
Yeah.
We have always conference of parties meetings, or in trade we call non-tariff barriers, phytosanitary standards to be made. So developed countries, because they will look at things from their own angle, to where their interest or their people's interest are there. So there then our interest does not figure. It aligns more with say of countries like Iran or China or North Korea. So we have to play this analogous game, so whether you like it or not. Otherwise, you can be beaten learn from both sides.
Right.
Yeah.
So, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming to our studio. I'm sure the viewers will be largely informed by your experience and the explanations, and we deeply appreciate your gestures, sir. Thank you very much. Hope to see you again.
That was good. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.